So this is the financial spreadsheet template. You'll see at the bottom we have these blue tabs. These are all the input tabs. Everything that gets filled out in these tabs would then get pushed to these yellow tabs over here. This is your break-even analysis, and we can get into that a little bit later, but it's basically telling you when your revenues and your costs are equal, and it shows you at what point you're going to become profitable as a business. So again, these blue ones, this is really where we're going to spend the majority of our time. We have input tabs, so you'll see revenue build input and then revenue build. Revenue build input is saying that everything we're going to be editing in this would then get broken down into this view. So you actually don't have to touch anything in this screen. It's just for a read-only view of all the information that you've been filling out here. This information is on a yearly basis, and then we break it out monthly so that you can get a more detailed look into your revenues every single month throughout the years that you're forecasting. And the same with the CapEx input and then the CapEx tabs. So again, all the inputs tabs, everything in orange, if you edit them in the input tabs, they will flow through to these other tabs that are associated to them. The blue text means that they're formulas and that they're being calculated based off of these oranges, but only really make your edits in the input tabs. Don't make any changes or edits in these other tabs. Or else you risk messing something up. You'll see here when you highlight over the fields that are orange in these tabs, they're actually being sourced from the corresponding input tab. And then the other thing before we get started and we dive in, I've included legends over on the left-hand side for each page, so you have a reminder about what the text colors mean. Again, the orange numbers in this tab for the ones where the information gets populated. I said do not edit. They're taken from the input tab. The assumptions are all of the blues. If you have actuals and you want to go ahead and manually fill them in, do that, and you can get rid of the formulas that are there, or if they're being sourced from another tab, you can do that as well. But then make sure to color them in black to indicate that they're actual numbers that are hard, concrete numbers that you've gotten from your bank statements and your bank accounts and everything. You could also expand and collapse those instructions. So I have instructions on every tab pretty much to explain how to read through everything. So if you want, you can expand or collapse them if you don't want to read them. Also, I have listed out a lot of information in some of these instructions and steps. The way to read this is you actually want to pull this thing down, and I'll show you the entire paragraph there so you can keep scrolling through the instructions. Okay, now to start off, we're going to go through this general tab first. So the general tab, this takes into account your company name and the start month and year. And both of these fields, once they're filled in, they get populated throughout the entire spreadsheet. So every page within the spreadsheet will then be populated with whatever you filled in here. So go ahead and add in your company name and then the start month and year. So the start month and year, if you're following the calendar year, then that's going to start in January and end in December. If you're following the fiscal year, if you're not familiar with what a fiscal year is basically for accounting purposes, you can choose your own start month and year for all of your businesses' earnings and financials, and just for accounting purposes. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you're a seasonal business and your business really starts to take off in the summer months. You don't want to start your year in January because you're not going to be earning your revenues until, let's say, July. So there's going to be several months where you're not incurring any revenue, and that's really not going to look great on the books for you. So we can update your start in month year, which would be your fiscal year, to July. So let's say you started your fiscal year July of 2018. That fiscal year would end in June of 2019. So that's a full 12 months. And just keep in mind, when you're referring to your fiscal year, you actually would refer to that year as the fiscal year of 2019, because you want to talk about it as when the year that it ends in, not the year that it begins. So it's starting July 2019 and would end 12 months later in June of 20. It starts in July 2018 and ends 12 months later in June of 2019. So go ahead and fill that information in, and then we'll move on to the next tabs.